Main Street on Memorial Day. Back when things were simple. When a can of soup cost just a nickel. When folks could leave the doors open on a hot summer night. When Memorial Day was a relatively new holiday. Back when people not only enjoyed a day off, but took time out to honor those servicemen and women who have fallen to keep us free. And remember those loved ones who enjoyed that freedom before passing on. Much has changed since the days of milk wagons and trolleys. Life in America is much different now. Yet, Americans across the country still celebrate the lives and sacrifices of those who have died both in civilian life and in the name of liberty. This is a national holiday, a day to reflect, a day to gather together as one nation. This is Memorial Day. Today, Memorial Day in Royal Oak is celebrated, as it has always been, by joining together downtown on Main Street in a yearly tradition, the celebration known as the Royal Oak Memorial Day Community Parade.
Gentlemen and boys and girls, welcome to the Royal Oak Memorial Day Community Parade. Leading us off from the Royal Oak Police Department, we've got a lead-off car and some of our newer motorcycles. And then right behind them, a Royal Oak Fire Department truck, a hook and ladder truck, and a newer ambulance. A big thank you to the men and women of our Royal Oak Police Department and fire departments for keeping us safe and sound. Hey, how about this? This is a 1940 fire truck. It's owned by the chief of the Troy Fire Department. His name's Bill Nelson. Thanks for coming today, Bill. The Oakland County Sheriff, Mike Bouchard, is with us today. He's brought with him some of his tactical equipment. We see a motorcycle there and some, wow, I wonder what that is. And then right behind the sheriff, we've got a 1930 Model A Ford. This is owned by Mr. and Mrs. George Jones of Royal Oak. They won first place at the Berkeley Days Parade for antique cars. He's a veteran also. And right behind him, we've got a Model A Ford owned by Timothy Schaefer of Troy, who's been in our parade many times. These three owners are all members of the Model A Ford Club. And then right behind him, another 1930 Model A. This is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Donald Dennis of Royal Oak. They're neighbors of the Jones, and they show their cars together very often. Nice to have you with us today. The theme of this year's parade is A New Millennium, Lest We Forget. To remind us of this, it is the motto of our leadoff unit of today's parade. This is the Celtic Pipe and Drums leading our way for Royal Oak's Canadian Legion, Maple Leaf Post number 84, directed by Commander Reggie Slaymaker. Many folks don't know that the Canadians fought in World War II and in Vietnam alongside many of the American units. So when you hear the three songs at the services later today, you'll understand a little bit more. Today we salute all veterans from all wars. We see many walking in the units with their grandchildren, their children, and some even with their great-grandchildren. They represent World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and Gulf Wars, and this is their parade. The Marine Corps League Corporal Stanley L. Moore Detachment of Troy is marching with us this morning. They will do the honor of the rifle salute for Troy's first Memorial Day services at the Troy City Hall. Got some folks here from the Oakland County Veterans Services. They're led by Mr. Jack Becker. Here comes a 1972 Fleetwood Caddy limo owned by Mr. Ed DeWitt of Royal Oak. And some folks from the Frank Wendland American Legion Post number 253, also in Royal Oak. The auxiliaries led by Kathy Berquist.
Doing fine. No, after all, but I think Mike got to do another.
Following the folks from the American Legion, we've got from a 1966 M151A utility truck. It's owned by Mr. Bruce Welther of Pleasant Ridge. Coming up next, we've got some folks from the 24th Michigan Volunteers Infantry Civil War Unit. They're led by Deputy Commissioner Doug Reed. The uniforms they're wearing are copies of the originals that were worn during the Civil War. And coming up right behind them, there's a 1929 Ford Huckster owned by Mr. Christian Uplegger of Royal Oak. And right behind him, a 1921 Ford Model A. This one's owned by Mr. and Mrs. Donald Nichols, also of Royal Oak. Here's some folks from the Veterans of Foreign Wars Acorn Post, number 1669, along with their auxiliary. We've also got their Poppy Queens today. They're Miss Linda Gore and Miss Krista Fairchild.
Very good there. Looking good.
And here come the Poppy Queens again, Miss Linda Gore and Miss Krista Fairchild. Now we've got some folks from the Ezra Parker chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution from Royal Oak. Hey, this is a 1930 Model A Ford. It's owned by Mr. and Mrs. Ed Wagman of Royal Oak. Looks like we've got a couple of passengers there I'm not sure I recognize. Could be Elmo, Oscar the Grouch. Hey, and right behind them, let's not forget the Kimball High School Marching Band under the directorship of Mr. James Connaughton. Folks, they represent us in Washington. First, we've got United States Senator Carl Levin and his brother, Congressman Sandy Levin. With him is, I think, Sandy's wife, Vicki. Nice to have you with us again.
Thank you. Morning. Thank you. Morning. What a morning. Another beauty.
You know, we've
With us, too, today is Michigan State Senator Shirley Johnson.
We try to keep it down.
enough of that, for God's sakes. You know.
Also with us today is Michigan State Representative John Papageorge from the 41st District.
Oh, there he is. Oh, there. See you, guys. Looking for you. I saw
What?
your wife. We didn't see you.
I'm telling folks, I'm the guy with a big long name that's a state rep in the area. How are you?
Yeah, in fact, I didn't even see him. I thought maybe he was in Dean Woodward is next.
We've also got with us, I think for the first time, Michigan State Representative Dave Woodward and some folks from his family and organization. And also Congresswoman Debbie Stabenow and her family. Also with us today is John P. McCullough, Oakland County Commissioner. And now, with us for the first time are some folks from the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of the Chippewa Indians, Vietnam veterans. From 1906 to 1971, 4 brothers served in the armed forces during the Vietnam War. As proud Native Americans of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewas, they continue to uphold their rich heritage and sacred traditions. We're very grateful to have the tribe representing the brave warriors and proud veterans in the Royal Oak Memorial Day Parade today. They're dressed in their tribal regalia, symbolizing valor and their unity with nature. Traditional music and drums are being played via the Pontiac convertible. They're carrying their tribal flag as well as the American flag. Other family members are accompanying their sibling veterans to show honor and respect. Great to have you folks here today. Some folks from the Gateway Country Day School from Clawson under the directorship of Lynn Bilski. And here he is, McGruff, with some folks from the Royal Oak Crime Prevention Council.
Hey, Gordon, the Bibbies, how you doing? You might be the only dog in the parade. Real dog.
The Royal Oak Citizens of the Year. Our first of all is Judy Frizzard and Mr. Jack Kirby. Honored to have you with us today.
Sarah, sponsor. Judy's in the next car. Yay! Hey, Danny, Mr. Kirby.
The Spirit Award this year goes to John and Bill Sullivan. This is the Three Flags chapter from the Daughters of the American Revolution. They're led by Merlene Benner of Berkeley. Next up, we've got some folks from the Fraternal Order of Eagles Mixed Drill Team. They're from Union Airy number 2092. From the Royal Oak Elks Lodge, we've got some folks. And if you haven't been to the new Elks Club, which is on 4th and Stevenson, you owe yourself a visit. It's a beautiful building. If you get a chance, check it out. Behind them are some folks, some ladies from the Wapiti Club. That's, of course, a Lady Elk. Wapiti Club is led this year by Michelle Hennessy. Here's a GMC half-ton pickup truck that's owned by Mr. Ron Fife of Royal Oak. One of the great service clubs in Royal Oak, of course, is the Optimist Club, and they've brought along some of their members today, along with some kids. Who's the leader of this band? Well, it's Mr. Dave Jensen, the director of the Keller Middle School Marching Band. When we first saw him as director, the band was pretty small, but if you miss any of their performances now, you're missing a lot. Some of them are going to be professional performers in the music field one day. Let's give them a listen. Well, happy anniversary number 80 to the Longfellow Elementary School. They're celebrating with us today. We also have some members of families who served in the armed forces during the wars. We ask all of our veterans to join us today in saluting them for our freedoms and those who gave their lives so that we can do this parade and celebrate in their honor. Particularly, we have today from Longfellow, Tony Chunferani and Annette Kaiser, both of whom served in the Navy. Thanks for being with us today, folks. Hey, from Longfellow, we've got some Cub Scouts, too. Their pack number is 1611. A group of Huskies. And it looks like some Brownies, too, from troop number 3731. And some more Brownies. They're from troop number 1459. with us for a long number of years has been the Red Hawks. The Red Hawks from Troy Athens High School, but today's a little bit of a sad occasion. We're saluting Mr. Fred Juneau, the director of the band. He's been with us, rain or shine, hot or cold, the last several years, but he's retiring at the end of this year. And so this is his final appearance in Royal Oaks Memorial Day Parade. The band's performed more than any other Michigan band from coast to coast and overseas, bowl games and everywhere. You name it, they've been there. Please give them a warm round of applause, and we certainly will miss Mr. Juneau. Also represented today, the Boys and Girls Club of South Oakland County. They're starting with a dark blue 2000 Chevrolet Venture minivan that's driven by Mr. Don Reed. Don will have some alumni and a few other people in the van with him.
All right, Boys and Girls Club, all right.
The executive director of the Boys and Girls Club is John O'Connell.
That's still Boys and Girls. Yeah, that's still Boys and Girls Club.
Next, we've got some club members on foot featuring the Keystone Club, which is the teen leadership development group. This Corvette convertible you see is driven by Dave Buck. Dave has the 2000 Youth of the Year, Mr. Chris Edgington, as his passenger. We got the soap bubble action going on today. And following up, the Big Blue Boys and Girls Club Band, driven by Ms. Cheryl Buck. Here's some folks from Lockwood Street. It's neighbors who've just built a float, bringing a few of the folks, big and small, that live up and down the block. We've got a little bit of music playing, and we're glad to have them with us today.
Well, it actually starts about
The Royal Oak neighborhood schools are going to be represented now. First up, a float and some kids from the Lincoln Early Childhood Center. Now we've got some Girl Scouts from troop number 649. And then a group of young brownies. And some little ones from Daisy Troop number 3916. And some brownies from troop number 3707. And some more from troop 88. Right behind them from troop 1489, we've got some Girl Scouts. They're from Star School. Looks like troop 551, Girl Scouts and brownies. Brownie Troop 85 is represented today.
What happened?
And from Helen Keller Middle School,
Oh,
it's
Star
Girl Scout
Elementary?
Troop
Oh,
number
my goodness.
1941. From Northwood School, we've got some brownies from troop number 2024. And some Girl Scouts from troop number 1046. And now we've got the Jane Addams Middle School Marching Band under the direction of Mr. Keith Corey. Got some first-time visitors to our parade. It's the Brewster Wheeler Starlets from Detroit. Welcome, ladies. Some folks from Cub Scout pack number 1623, the Cub Master there, Mr. Richard Hendry. Then we've got a whole bunch of representatives from the Royal Oak youth football teams, and of course their cheerleaders. The team in blue is the Chargers. The team in red is the Chiefs. And I'm sure we've got at least one or two future Lions in that group. Upton Elementary School is represented today by Cub Scout Pack number 1628. They're led by Mr. George Samolsky. And from our South Oakland YMCA, we've got some folks from the Indian program. They're led by Mr. Thomas Murphy. Here comes Cub Scout Pack number 1634. They're led by their Cub Master, Mr. Robert Hunnessey. And I hear the strains of that authentic antique circus calliope built around 1900. A very rare 53 whistle national. It's the largest of the air calliopes. At one time, it was in the funhouse at the old Eastwood Gardens Amusement Park in Detroit, owned many years by the Detroit Edison Company and used for parades and their special events. Did you know the calliope is the only musical instrument invented entirely in the United States, 1855 in Massachusetts? Whittier Elementary School is represented here today by their Cub Scout Pack number 1627. They're led by Trish Coates. Looks like we've got a little 3-on-3 soccer game breaking out amongst some members of the Royal Oak Youth Soccer Association. How far's the net, buddy? I think you saw the Spiders just now bounding up the street on their way north. And we've got a few more teams represented today. Looks like we've got the Panthers here, the Skittles, the Chipmunks. Thought I saw Alvin in there. Looks like a couple of the Chipmunks have their baseball uniforms on today. I wonder what that's all about. Coming up next, we have from the National Shrine of the Little Flower, some of the Knights of Columbus. Knights of Columbus, of course, is the nation's largest Catholic fraternal organization, 1.5 million members. Dating to 1882, when Father Michael J. McGivney realized that many American immigrants had no plans for proper funerals and taking care of loved ones, he formed the first Council of the Knights, named for Christopher Columbus, in New Haven, Connecticut. Since then, the Knights' membership has grown to include millions around the world, with membership in the KFC guaranteeing expenses toward final preparations. Their goals are charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. Special events that the KFC participates in annually are youth, church, and community, including hospital and bereavement, and Boysville here in Michigan, to name a few. Shown in our parade today are some members of the 4th Degree Color Corps escorting the National Shrine of the Little Flower Scouts, as well as the National Shrine of Little Flower Knights of Columbus. And their patriotic float depicts the goals of the Knights: charity, unity, fraternity, and patriotism. Cub Scout Pack 1607. A whole bunch of kids from the Royal Oak Baseball Federation. Be sure and look for them this summer at the various diamonds and parks around the city. I think opening day is today. Last but not least, coming up the street, the City of Royal Oak DPW truck, driven, I think, by Mr. Greg Rassel today. And of course, coming up the street is Miss Pat Taylor. Without her, none of this would happen. She's the lady that puts it all together. We thank her very much. Well, that's it for the year 2000 Royal Oak Memorial Community Day Parade. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you again right here next year.